My life has taken an unexpected and terrifying turn. For 17 years, I fooled myself into thinking I had it all figured out: a supportive husband, a stunning kid, and an unbreakable marriage. This is the story of Paloma, and it teaches us that even our closest friends and family can suddenly seem like total strangers. There was a certain ease to my life back then. When I was younger, I was an accountant who helped a trade company with their bookkeeping and figure crunching. I was competent at my job, and although it wasn't thrilling, it helped support my family. As a sales representative for a major company, my husband Mark had to travel quite a bit for work. I had grown accustomed to his absences and even anticipated his return, when I would prepare all of his favorite dishes. Sarah was 15 years old, and she was a lively, intelligent youngster who brought a lot of life into our house. She embodied everything that made us unique: Mark's charisma and my doggedness. I foolishly believed that our little abode, however comfortable, was the source of our happiness. My naivete in believing that happiness might endure indefinitely has been exposed in retrospect. "When are you coming back this time?" During one of Mark's business trips, I called him and requested. We had this same discussion in the past. "Should be home by Thursday," he responded, his voice distant. "Don't bother cooking anything special." It ought to have served as my initial indication. Whenever Mark returned from a trip, he would rave about my food. However, there had been a subtle shift in recent times. After each excursion, he would return home in a different state: abstracted, reflective, and nearly icy. Whenever he entered the house, he would not greet the food I had cooked with the usual enthusiasm, but would pay little attention to it. "Are you okay? Inquiring minds want to know. You seem different." He would dismiss my worries by saying, "Just tired from work. It's nothing." My midlife crisis was the reason I gave it. Everyone was talking about that, wasn't they? Changes occurring in men as they enter their 40s. As long as I gave him room and time, I told myself it would be temporary and everything would be fine. We both remained silent, hoping it would go away, even though Sarah did as well. "Mom, Dad seems weird lately," she said one night as we were washing dishes together. Truthfully, I responded, "He's just stressed with work, honey," as if I believed my fiction. Things like these do occur in marriage from time to time. Things will improve. Everything would go back to normal if I tried harder at being the ideal wife, so I focused on improving my cooking and housekeeping skills. Unfortunately, reality often shatters our illusions at the most inopportune times. I remember that ordinary Tuesday evening when everything changed. I had just gotten home from work and was checking my social media messages while sitting on the couch in our living room. A message from someone I didn't know. I almost ignored it, but something made me open it. "Hello, Paloma." The message read, "I think it's time we talked. I'm your husband's second wife." My hands trembled as I continued reading. Each word felt like a knife twisting deeper into my heart. "I've been seeing Mark for 3 years now," the message continued. "We have a beautiful son together, the child he always wanted. I'm young, beautiful, and I make him happy in ways you never could." I felt sick to my stomach, but I couldn't stop reading. Then came the screenshots, dozens of them. Messages between my husband and this woman revealed the ugly truth about his feelings for me. "I can't stand looking at her anymore," Mark had written. "She's gotten so fat and ugly. Being in bed with her is like sleeping next to a log." Tears blurred my vision as I scrolled through more messages. "Her cooking makes me want to vomit. The whole house feels suffocating. If it wasn't for Sarah, I would have left years ago." The final message from this woman felt like the ultimate slap in the face. "If you have any pride left, Paloma, you'll let him go. He doesn't love you anymore. He hasn't for a long time." The room started spinning. I remember trying to stand up, but my legs wouldn't support me. The last thing I heard was my phone clattering to the floor before everything went black. I woke up to Sarah's worried face hovering over me. "Mom, Mom, can you hear me?" Sarah's voice sounded distant. "I'm calling an ambulance." "No, honey, I'm fine," I tried to say, but the words came out slurred. The paramedics came anyway. They checked my vitals while I sat on our living room couch, Sarah clutching my hand. That's when Mark walked in. "What happened?" he asked. For a moment, I saw concern in his eyes. Then he saw my phone on the coffee table, still open to those messages. "Is it true?" I whispered, looking into his eyes. "All of it." He didn't even try to deny it. His face hardened, and in that moment, I saw the stranger he'd become. "Yes," he said flatly. "I don't love you anymore, Paloma. I haven't for a long time. I want a divorce." Sarah gasped beside me, her grip on my hand tightening. The paramedics tactfully stepped into the kitchen, giving us space. "How could you do this to Mom?" Sarah's voice shook with anger. "How could you?" "I'm sorry you had to find out this way," was all he said before walking out of the room. The next few weeks passed in a blur. I filed for divorce, going through the motions like a zombie. Sarah was my rock through it all, choosing to stay with me despite Mark's attempts to convince her otherwise. He agreed to pay alimony for her without argument, probably the only decent thing he did during that time. Time moved forward as it always does. Before I knew it, Sarah was graduating from high school. Mark and I split the costs of her college education equally. It seemed like the only civil interaction we had left. We both wanted the best for our daughter, even if we couldn't stand being in the same room together. Sarah chose a college in another city, and at first everything seemed fine. She called me regularly, telling me about her classes, her new friends, and life in the dorms. I lived for those calls, clinging to each detail she shared about her new life. But gradually the calls became less frequent. When I tried reaching out, I'd get short-clipped responses. "Sorry, Mom, I'm busy right now. Can't talk. Got a study group? Maybe next week, okay." Each excuse felt like a small punch to the gut, but I told myself she was just busy with college life, until she stopped coming home altogether. "Why don't you visit any more, sweetie?" I'd asked during our increasingly rare phone conversations. "Just swamped with schoolwork, Mom. You know how it is." One evening, feeling particularly lonely, I decided to check her social media page. At first, nothing seemed unusual, just typical college posts about classes and friends. Then I saw it. Among her friends' list was a familiar face, Mark's wife, the woman who had destroyed my marriage. My hands shaking, I clicked on her profile. What I saw made my blood run cold. There were dozens of photos of Sarah with Mark, his wife, and their son. Happy family photos. "Finally reunited," read one caption. "Complete family time," said another. In every picture, Sarah was beaming, hugging her father and his new wife like they were one big happy family. Felt sick. All those excuses, all those missed visits. She'd been with them the whole time. Took screenshots of the photos and sent them to Sarah with trembling fingers. Then I called her, my heart pounding. She answered on the third ring. Before I could say anything, she cut me off. "I was wondering when you'd find out," she said, her voice cold and unfamiliar. "Why, Sarah? Why didn't you tell me?" "Because they're fun, Mom. They're rich and interesting. Dad and Lisa take me shopping, buy me designer clothes. He just got me a new car for my birthday." "What do you offer?" she continued, her tone sharp. "A boring apartment and your boring life." Each word felt like a slap. "I'm your mother, Sarah. I raised you." "Yeah, well, I'm old enough to choose who I want to spend time with," she interrupted. "Lisa gives me money whenever I need it. They take me on vacations. If you don't like it, that's your problem." I sat there in my quiet apartment, staring at my phone through tears. First Mark. Now Sarah. The two people I loved most in the world had both chosen the younger, prettier, richer woman over me. I curled up on my couch and sobbed, feeling more alone than I ever had in my life. I desperately needed someone to talk to. That's when I remembered my father. We hadn't spoken in 15 years, not since that terrible fight about Mark. Dad had seen right through him, had warned me repeatedly, but I wouldn't listen. "He's not right for you, Paloma," Dad had said back then. "There's something off about him. You just don't want me to be happy." I had shouted back, "You've never supported my choices." Those were the last words we'd exchanged before I stormed out of his house, choosing Mark over my father. Now, the irony of it all made me laugh bitterly. Dad had been right all along. With trembling fingers, I dialed his number, half expecting it to be disconnected after all these years. "Hello." His voice hadn't changed at all. "Dad," my voice cracked. "It's Paloma. I was wondering if we could talk." "Come over right now," he said without hesitation. "I'll text you the gate code." As I drove to my childhood home, I wondered what had changed. Nothing could have prepared me for what I found. The modest house I grew up in had been transformed into a stunning estate. A security gate guarded the entrance, and the house itself had been completely renovated, at least triple its original size. Dad was waiting at the door, his hair grayer than I remembered, but his eyes just as kind. "Welcome home, sweetheart." "Dad, what? How?" I gestured at the house. He grinned proudly. "A lot can happen in 15 years. Come inside. I'll explain everything over coffee." In what used to be our simple kitchen, now a gourmet masterpiece, Dad told me how he built a real estate empire from scratch. "I own about 30 properties in the city now," he said casually, "both residential and commercial. Turns out your old man had a knack for business after all." Then it was my turn. I told him everything about Mark's betrayal, his new wife and son, and finally about Sarah's rejection. By the end, I was sobbing in his arms like a little girl. "I'm so sorry, Dad," I whispered. You were right about Mark. I should have listened." "I forgave you long ago, sweetheart," he said, stroking my hair. "I'm just glad you're home now." After that day, I started visiting Dad regularly. It felt like making up for lost time. We talked about everything: his business, my life, our shared regrets. One evening, as we sat on his terrace overlooking the city, he made an unexpected proposal. "Come work for me," he said. "I need a good accountant for my company, someone I can trust, someone who can learn the business from the ground up." "Dad, I don't know anything about real estate." "I'll teach you. You're smart, Paloma. You always have been. And maybe," he paused, "maybe it'll help take your mind off everything else." He was right. Learning the real estate business was exactly what I needed. Dad started teaching me everything: property valuation, contract negotiations, market analysis. For the first time in years, I felt truly excited about something. The numbers made sense to me, and the business strategies challenged my mind in ways my old accounting job never had. 3 years passed quickly as I immersed myself in learning the real estate business. I still checked Sarah's social media occasionally. That's how I learned she was graduating from college. There was no invitation for me to attend the ceremony. Instead, I received a brief message: "Don't come to graduation. Lisa says it would make her uncomfortable." The words stung, but they no longer surprised me. My daughter had made her choice clear. She wanted her father's new family, not me. The photos from her graduation showed her beaming between Mark and Lisa, her half-brother perched on Mark's shoulders. The perfect family portrait, complete without me. One evening, Dad invited me over for dinner. Something felt different. He was quieter than usual, more serious. After we finished eating, he led me to his study. "Sit down, sweetheart," he said, lowering himself carefully into his leather chair. "There's something I need to tell you." My heart clenched at his tone. "What is it, Dad?" "I've been sick for a while now," he said quietly. "Cancer. I've been fighting it for 3 years, but—" He shook his head slowly. "The doctors say I don't have much time left." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" "Because I had work to do," he said with a sad smile. "I needed to prepare you to take over the business. That's why I brought you in when I did. I knew I needed time to teach you everything." I fell to my knees beside his chair, grabbing his hand. "Dad, no." "Hey now," he said, squeezing my hand. "Don't cry, sweetheart. We got these last 3 years together. We made peace. That's all I wanted. To know you were ready. To know we made things right between us. Now I can go peacefully." He was gone 3 months later. I arranged the funeral myself, trying to honor him as best I could through my grief. I sent Sarah a message. "Your grandfather passed away. The funeral is on Saturday. Please come." Her response came quickly and hit like a slap. Why would I care about some old man? Dad says he was nasty anyway. Not interested. I stared at the message in disbelief. The man she was dismissing had been ready to welcome her back into his life, despite her treatment of me. He asked about her often, kept a photo of her on his desk, and now she couldn't even show basic human respect for his passing. The funeral was beautiful, attended by many of Dad's business associates and friends. Sarah's absence felt like a physical wound, but I stood tall, delivering the eulogy with all the strength I could muster. Afterward came the inheritance. The house I'd grown up in, now a mansion. The company I'd learned to run. All the properties Dad had accumulated over the years, his legacy passed down to me. Everything Mark and Lisa flaunted their wealth with looked small in comparison. But I didn't want the mansion. Instead, I asked my assistant to add it to our rental properties portfolio. I'd had it renovated exactly how I liked it, and it felt like home. My neighbors had become friends over the years, and the location was perfect for overseeing the business. 2 years passed quietly. The business thrived under my management, though my personal life remained empty of the one person I missed most. Then, out of nowhere, my phone rang. Sarah's number flashed on the screen. "Mom," she said without any greeting, "I'm getting married. We'll come by next week to talk about it. Jake wants to meet you." True to her word, Sarah arrived at my apartment the following week with her fiancé. I watched as she entered, her eyes scanning my living room with barely concealed disdain. "Still the same old place," she muttered, running a finger along my coffee table. "Still living in dullness and poverty, I see." I bit my tongue, focusing instead on Jake, who seemed uncomfortable with her comment. I busied myself preparing coffee and setting out the pastries I'd bought for their visit. "So," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "tell me about the wedding plans." Sarah straightened up, suddenly animated. "We're planning something spectacular. Only the absolute best venues in the city will do. The ceremony will be in 6 months. "That's wonderful. Have you found a place yet?" "We're looking," Jake said politely. "We want something really special." Sarah cleared her throat. "Actually, Mom, that's partly why we're here. Weddings are expensive, you know." "Of course," I nodded. "I'd be happy to help. I can contribute $10,000. Sarah rolled her eyes dramatically. "Well, I guess that's better than nothing. Lisa's already promised to handle my dress and the honeymoon." They didn't stay long after that. As the door closed behind them, I sank onto my couch, thinking about the irony of it all. With the success of Dad's, now my company could easily finance 10 such weddings without blinking an eye. But Sarah's attitude, her constant digs about my poverty, and her complete lack of interest in my life held me back. "Let's see how this plays out," I murmured to myself. I waited for a wedding invitation, checking my mail every day. Nothing came. Finally, curiosity got the better of me, and I visited Sarah's social media page. there it was, a lengthy post about her perfect wedding venue. My eyes widened as I read the name of the ceremony hall she'd chosen, the Grand Plaza, one of the most prestigious event venues in the city, also one of my properties. Finally, her post read, "Jake and I found the most amazing venue for our wedding. The Grand Plaza is absolutely perfect, so elegant and exclusive. Just need to sign the rental agreement and everything will be set." I couldn't help but smile. Sarah had no idea that her poor mother owned the very hall she was so excited about. She'd chosen it precisely because it represented everything she thought I couldn't provide: luxury, elegance, wealth. A week after Sarah's visit with Jake, she showed up at my apartment alone. Her expression was cold, practiced. "Mom, I need to tell you something," she said, standing in my living room, not bothering to sit down. "I won't be inviting you to the wedding." I felt my heart crack but kept my face neutral. "Why not?" She gestured dismissively around my apartment. "Look around. The wedding will be at this gorgeous hall. Important people will be there. Jake's family, Dad's business associates, Lisa's friends. You?" She looked me up and down. "You're too simple, too poor. You wouldn't fit in." The cruelty of her words took my breath away. "But hey," she added, heading for the door, "you can still send a gift. Money would be best. I'll text you my card details." The door clicked shut behind her. I sat there for a long moment, then picked up my phone and made a call to my office. A week later, I walked into the Grand Plaza's executive office. Sarah, Jake, and his parents were sitting with my property manager, ready to sign the rental agreement. Sarah was beaming, practically glowing with satisfaction, until she saw me walk in. "Mom," her jaw dropped. "What are you doing here?" I smiled, settling into the leather chair behind the desk. "The Grand Plaza belongs to me, along with several other luxury venues in the city. In fact," I gestured around us, "this entire company that manages these properties is mine." Sarah started stuttering. But how? Where did you get all this?" "Remember when I told you your grandfather had died? When I invited you to his funeral?" I kept my voice level. "The one you called some nasty old man. He left me everything, his company, his properties, his legacy." Sarah's face went from pale to red. Then, like flipping a switch, her expression changed to one I recognized, the same calculating look she'd worn when choosing between me and Lisa years ago. "Wait, if you own all this, then I'm your only heir. You have to give me the venue for free, and a wedding gift, maybe one of your properties." I couldn't help but laugh. "Actually, I came here personally to deny your rental application." "What?" Sarah jumped to her feet. "You can't do that." "I can, and I am." Stood up, gathering my papers. "I suggest you find another venue. And Sarah," I paused at the door, "maybe think about whether it's worth destroying relationships with people who truly love you just because they don't seem rich or important enough." "But Mom," Sarah's screams followed me down the hallway. "You can't do this to me. I'm your daughter, Mom." I kept walking, my heels clicking against the marble floor, drowning out her protests. For the first time in years, I felt truly strong. Not because of my wealth or position, but because I'd finally stood up for myself. 3 days after my confrontation with Sarah at the Grand Plaza, a gold-embossed envelope arrived in my mail. Inside was an elaborate wedding invitation, the kind that probably cost more than most people's weekly salary. My phone buzzed with a message almost simultaneously. "Mom, I'm so sorry for everything," Sarah's message read. "I've been horrible to you. I've done a lot of thinking, and I realize now how wrong I was. I'm ready to cut ties with Dad and Lisa completely. We don't need them in our lives. Please come to my wedding. Please give me another chance." I sat on my couch, holding the invitation in one hand and my phone in the other, feeling an odd sense of déjà vu. The words were perfect. The apology seemed heartfelt. But something felt off. Then it hit me. This wasn't really about me at all. When I chose your father and Lisa, I typed back slowly. It was because they seemed to offer something better than what I had with my dad. More money, more excitement, more status. I abandoned someone who truly loved me for superficial things. Sound familiar? I waited, watching the 3 dots appear and disappear several times before her response came through. That's not fair, Mom. I really want to make things right. But I could see it clearly now. When Mark and Lisa had money and status, Sarah had chosen them. Now that she knew I was wealthy, she was choosing me. The pattern was painfully obvious. I didn't respond to her message. Instead, I placed the wedding invitation in my desk drawer next to the photo of my father. The wedding date came and went. I spent that day working in my office, looking out over the city my father had built and I now managed. Sarah posted plenty of photos online. She found another venue, though not quite as prestigious as the Grand Plaza. Her grin appeared artificial, despite her stunning white outfit. I still occasionally peruse her social media accounts, observing her life from afar. She has recently reduced the number of images she posts with Mark and Lisa. I assume that connection has also lost some of its luster. Even now and then she will message me, mostly when she has a need. But I've come to terms with the fact that they go unanswered. Reconciliation is still something I'm hoping for. It was 15 years before I realized the extent of my actions toward my father. To feel genuine remorse for prioritizing worldly pursuits over genuine love. After all those years, my dad was waiting with open arms to welcome me back when I finally got it. Perhaps my current task is to simply wait. I want to be prepared in case Sarah ever realizes that loving someone means more than liking them for their qualities. Until then, I will continue to manage the business that my father left me, residing in my cozy yet humble apartment. Also, I'm neither rich or poor. I'm just Sarah's mother, so I'm leaving the door open in case Sarah returns sometime.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sandra Jimmy, a successful real estate agent and the founder of Jimmy Real Estate Group. My journey here wasn't easy. I turned my experiences with betrayal and property fraud into a mission to help others find safe, trustworthy homes. After exposing my ex-husband Adam and his sister Linda's criminal network, I dedicated myself to developing affordable housing projects, including homes for survivors of domestic abuse. My story proves that sometimes losing everything paves the way to building something even better. Look at you, crushing it again this month, another property sold, Susan said, grinning. Thanks, Susan. Yeah, being a realtor has really paid off. We were sitting at our usual coffee spot, reminiscing about how far I'd come. 5 years of hard work had bought me that beautiful 2-story house in Oak Ridge when I was just 32, long before I met Adam. Back then, Adam seemed perfect. Charming, supportive, always bragging to people about how his wife had bought their house all on her own. How's Adam handling the family business these days? Susan asked. You know how it is with those Chen Enterprises meetings, I said with a sigh. He's been coming home later and later. As if on cue, Linda showed up, uninvited as usual. Adam's sister had moved back to town 3 months ago after her divorce, and somehow she was always around. Sandra, I was just driving by and saw you here. Adam asked me to remind you about dinner tonight, she said, smiling in that overly sweet way I come to dread. I forced a polite smile. Thanks, Linda. But he could have just texted me himself. Oh, you know how busy he gets, she replied, waving her hand dismissively. By the way, I was thinking that guest room of yours would make a perfect home office for me since I'm helping with the family business now. Susan shot me a knowing look. We both knew Linda hadn't worked a day since her divorce. Later that day, I was checking the mailbox when my neighbor, Mrs. Thompson, waved me over. How are you holding up, dear? George and I notice Linda's car here almost every day now. She's just going through a tough time with a divorce, I said, trying to sound casual. Well, We're right next door if you ever need anything or anyone to keep an eye on things, she offered. That night, I tried talking to Adam about setting boundaries with Linda. Babe, don't start this again, he said, his tone sharp. She's family. But it's like she's trying to move in. And why is she suddenly involved in company decisions? His expression darkened. What's that supposed to mean? You don't trust my sister. His defensiveness was new, and it stung. Hey, I've got another late meeting tomorrow. Don't wake up, he added, brushing past me while checking his phone again, something he'd been doing a lot lately. The warm, attentive man I married was disappearing, replaced by someone distant and secretive. Every time I brought up Linda, he either shut down or got angry. Then things took a darker turn. One afternoon, Linda cornered me in the kitchen, sliding a stack of papers across the table. The Chens have always kept property in the family name. It's tradition, Sandra. You understand, right? She said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. I stared at the transfer documents, my hands trembling. My savings bought this house before I even met Adam. There's no tradition here. Her smile didn't falter. Don't be difficult. Adam agrees it's for the best. A week later, I noticed thousands missing from our joint account, transferred to an account I didn't recognize. When I confronted Adam, his explanation made no sense. It's just temporary business expenses. Stop questioning everything, he snapped. One evening, I came home early and overheard voices from the study. I crept closer. She's getting suspicious about the money, Linda whispered. We need to speed this up. Just keep pressuring her about the house, Adam replied. If she won't sign willingly, we'll find another way. My blood ran cold. The next morning, Mrs. Thompson stopped me at the mailbox again. Sandra, I don't mean to intrude, but George and I noticed something yesterday. Linda was bringing strange men into your house while you were at work. They had briefcases. It didn't feel right. That night, I installed cameras in the common areas. 2 days later, I watched the footage in horror as Linda rifled through my personal files and made calls. Adam was helping her. The final blow came when I found Linda in the backyard, burning my clothes in a metal trash can. What the hell are you doing? I screamed. Teaching you a lesson about cooperation, she hissed. Sign the papers, or next time, it'll be worse. I ran inside to call the police, but Adam grabbed my arm. You really want to do that? Think carefully about your next move, he warned, his grip tightening. In his eyes, I saw a stranger. Sign the transfer papers. Now? No. He slammed his hand against the wall beside my head, fury etched into his face. You ungrateful. After everything my family's done for you. That night, while Adam was sleeping, I packed a small bag and drove to the bank. My hands shook as I opened a safe deposit box and placed inside it my passport, birth certificate, property deed, and USB drives containing the damning footage. On my way home, my phone buzzed with a text from Susan. Did you get everything somewhere safe? Yes, I replied. But I'm scared about what happens next. Another buzz. Stay strong. We've got evidence now. They won't get away with this. If only I had known then just how deep their deception ran. The house was only the beginning. Sandra, you need to see this, David said the next morning, sliding a folder across his desk. My friend at the bank noticed irregularities with Chen Enterprises accounts. Flipping through the pages, my heart sank. Millions of dollars siphoned through shell companies, all leading back to Linda and Adam. And there's more, David continued. Remember Linda's divorce? My contact dug deeper. Turns out, she ran a similar scheme with her ex-husband's family business. Property fraud, embezzlement, fake investments, the works. He pointed to more documents. They're billing for construction on a property that doesn't exist, buying materials that never arrive. That evening my doorbell rang. It was Mrs. Thompson, clutching a USB drive. Our security cameras caught something yesterday, she said. Linda used a key to enter your house around 2 p.m. She left with folders. The footage showed Linda and 2 unidentified men carrying boxes out of my home. My stomach churned, but Mrs. Thompson gave me a reassuring smile. Don't worry. George made copies before giving this to you. He made you retire from the force, but he still knows how to gather evidence. With Susan's help, we created a detailed timeline. Missing money, bruises, threatening texts, everything was documented. Look at this pattern, Susan said, pointing at the chart. Every time you refused to sign something, something coincidentally happened to your property. Through David's connections, I met other victims. In hushed conversations at coffee shops and private rooms, their stories poured out. She convinced my parents to invest their retirement fund. One woman, Jenny, said, wiping her tears. Then the company disappeared overnight. She married my brother and tried to transfer his properties into her name. Michael, another victim, shared. When he refused, she fabricated abuse allegations. David's contact from financial crimes unearthed more damning evidence. Offshore accounts in the Caymans, years of tax evasion, and forged documents attempting to transfer my property. My signature was on the papers, but I had never seen them before. "They're getting desperate," David warned. "Be careful." That afternoon, I overheard Linda on the phone in the backyard. "The signature's perfect, Adam. Once we file these tomorrow, the house is mine. Then we can move forward with a development plan." A text from Susan lit up my phone. Got the recording, adding it to the evidence file. Later that evening, reviewing the evidence with David's contact, the full scope became clear. Adam and Linda weren't just after my house. They were using Chen Enterprises as their personal piggy bank, orchestrating a massive fraud scheme. For the first time in months, I allowed myself to smile. The truth was about to explode in their faces. The next day, I stood before the Chen family board, my evidence neatly organized in folders. Adam and Linda sat at the table, smug and unsuspecting. I began my presentation, playing the security footage first. Adam's parents watched in stunned silence as their children's betrayal unfolded on the screen. "This is just the beginning," I said. "Your children have been systematically destroying this company." Chaos erupted. Adam's father slammed his fist on the table. "Get our forensic accountants in here. Now." Linda burst into the boardroom, her anger barely concealed, but she froze when she saw her ex-husband, James, standing beside me. "Tell them, Linda," he said, his voice sharp. "Tell them how you did the same thing to my family." James placed a stack of files on the table, every page a testament to Linda's schemes. Within hours, company auditors uncovered the full extent of the fraud. Investors began pulling out as the news spread, and Chen Enterprises' stock plummeted. Later, in the parking lot, Linda cornered me. Her eyes burned with fury. "You think you've won," she hissed. "I still have one card to play." But her threat was empty. Federal agents, who had been monitoring her for weeks, were waiting for her to access a hidden offshore account. She walked right into their trap. "Linda Chen, you're under arrest for wire fraud, money laundering, and criminal conspiracy." The dominoes fell quickly after that. Adam's business partners turned on him, revealing his role in an international money laundering network spanning 3 continents. "Your evidence helped us crack a case we've been tracking for years," the lead investigator told me. From my office window, I watched as Adam was led out in handcuffs, news cameras capturing the fall of the once mighty Chen siblings. Their empire was crumbling. 3 months later, I sold the house and used the proceeds to launch Jimmy Real Estate Group. My first project focused on developing affordable housing on land the Chens had tried to steal. One day, my assistant announced, "You've got visitors." It was the Thompsons, their smiles warm and familiar. "We're looking to downsize, dear," Mrs. Thompson said. "Thought we'd give our favorite realtor the listing." That afternoon, Susan burst into my office, a bottle of champagne in hand. "Have you seen this?" she asked, pointing to her phone. Linda got 15 years, returned to sender. A year later, I stood in my new office overlooking the city. On my desk was a framed magazine cover. Jimmy Real Estate Group. Building trust, not empires. My phone buzzed. A text from David. "Guess who's getting an extended sentence for trying to run schemes from inside?" I smiled, deleting the message. Linda would never change. Neither would Adam. But I had. "Your next appointment's here," my assistant called. A young couple walked in, their hopeful faces a reminder of where I'd been years ago. "Let's find you a home you can trust," I said, pulling out listings. Behind them, through the window, I could see my latest project, affordable homes for survivors of domestic abuse. A large sign read, "Building New Beginnings." The irony wasn't lost on me. Adam and Linda had wanted my house, my dignity, my future. Instead, they lost everything, while I built something bigger than they could ever have imagined. Sometimes karma works through real estate. Turning back to the couple, I asked, "Tell me about your dream home." "What about you?" What would you do if you discovered your partner and their sibling weren't just after your house, but were part of a criminal network? Would you gather evidence quietly like I did or confront them immediately?